He will. He's done it again.
Quick conversations with King Drew Millions. Quick conversations with King Drew Millions. Quick conversations with King Drew Millions.
Quick conversations with King Drew Millions.
Let's chop it up.
Welcome, family, to another episode of Quick Conversation with King Drew Millions. It's your boy, Mr. Quick.
And I'm King Drew Millions.
And we have a wonderful guest with us tonight. You know what I'm saying? We got the beautiful Miss Amani Jackson. You know what I mean? Known for many things. Author / therapist / PA / the list goes on. So I'm going to let her introduce herself to you all. Miss Jackson?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. So my name is Amani Jackson, and I am an author. I'm a publisher. I'm a certified life coach and relationship coach. So much more. So I guess throughout the conversation, we'll learn some more about all the things I do.
Because you said some things that I ain't even said. And I know I said like 3 or 4 of them. So I told you the list goes on.
Yeah, we're glad to have you, man. We appreciate
Welcome
you.
to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump straight into it. So you're Amani Jackson. Where you from?
I'm originally from Newark, New Jersey.
New Jersey.
And I've been everywhere. I grew up primarily in Virginia, the Norfolk, Hampton Roads area.
Okay.
I migrated down toward Florida for the past few years, and last year I decided to make Houston my home, and I'm glad for it. I've met some amazing people here.
Yeah. How did traffic treat you?
Well, you know what? I've driven in New York. I've driven in DC. I've driven in Orlando. So traffic is traffic to me.
Well, shoot, I feel like Houston full. We don't need no other people. Like
Houston is closed.
Exactly. We've met our capacity. Like, we done.
They say never leave Houston on the Sunday. No, leave Houston on the
leave on the Saturday. How about that? You know
I've never had cows on the highway with me before. I've never had shootouts. Like, there are some things that are different in this area that I've not experienced other places, but the cows probably have taken it for me.
I mean, we definitely have a very unique culture here. I mean, you could see a foreign, a slab, a horse, and a truck all in one setting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And now a Tesla.
Yeah. You know what
a non-driving car.
You gotta love it down here. You know
I
what I'm saying?
do.
It does
I
get a
love
little
it.
hot though.
Yeah.
Very hot.
You know, I see you dreaded up and everything, so you don't have to worry about the humidity.
What? Do you know how hot it gets under all this hair? Yes, for the most part, I keep my locks up.
Okay.
But locks are very hot. Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't have that problem.
No, you don't.
So you did a lot of moving. Is it because of like were you a military kid or something?
No. So my mother was very nomadic growing up, for us growing up, and it rubbed off on me. I love to learn places and people. I don't believe that we were put on this earth to just experience one place, one people, one culture.
Right.
And so I do plan to just move around a lot, meet different people, know what different places feel like in and out of the country.
So how do you?
My next question: like, how you feel about traveling around the world, like traveling abroad?
I love it. I don't think that you know half of what you could possibly know unless you go outside and read and sit with other people. If you are basing all of your information from what you know from within this country, you don't know much.
No, I totally agree, because when I was over in Africa, like, no one ever spoke of slavery. Like, they didn't even kind of know what our transatlantic slave trade, what we learned in elementary, like, they have no recollection of it. Like, it's a completely different story.
Wow.
Yeah, like,
and it's
seriously.
crazy because we over here dated back to that, and over there they're like, what?
Exactly.
Well,
I went to East Africa too. You know what I mean? So that may have something to do with it.
Yeah, it does.
And most of the people that came from West Africa were actually enslaved.
Right, because I went to Ghana and I went to the door of no return. So I went and stepped foot on the actual ledge that was the last piece of Africa that slaves experienced before they were herded onto the ships.
How did that feel?
Oh, just from
it was really surreal to just be in places where you knew your ancestors had been raped or had been beaten or had been sold or had been bleeding, had been separated from their loved ones,
Right.
to be standing in a place where they were like reaching out to their husbands, to their children as they were separated. It was incredible. It's the castle at Elmina, and they were telling you how the governor would stand above. He had his quarters above the women's quarters, and he could look down into the open space that the female slaves were in and point out a female slave that he wanted brought up to his
Wow.
quarters to sleep with.
Wow.
And then there's like a drainage area in the middle of that open area, and they would just like shower her down and then bring her up to him. And so just to
Wow.
and then to see like their
That's crazy.
quarters and then the governor's quarters above, and how the stark contrast, of course, to how he was living compared to them in the, the barracks below. Yeah, it was a
Wow.
lot.
I
Man.
mean, fun fact, very trivial, but I'm big on history. Out of the 15 million slaves that were in the transatlantic slave trade, only 500,000 came to the United States. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like you got to think like we're descendants of only 500,000
A few.
people, along with the people that were already here. You know, the indentured individuals that were primary to this land on the United States. So just a fun
No,
fact.
that's a good
Yeah.
fun fact.
You know, I always drop a gem here and there.
So it really wasn't as many of us originally brought here as it was in other places of the world.
Well, we were dropped off other places
Right,
too. Yeah, like the
absolutely.
Caribbean.
So other places
Right,
got
right.
more of us than
Absolutely.
Yeah, they
here.
did.
The
Especially the
Brazil,
Caribbean, South America.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All those places, bro. Like they dropped us off wherever they, saw fit. You know what I mean? Whoever going to the highest bidder, you know what I mean?
Wherever
Best way
the
to put
need
it.
was,
Yeah.
because they were also using us for crops, and
Exactly.
because we were better with the land. You know, our
Exactly.
melanin was important to
Very,
working out in
very
the sun,
important.
and we were made to do the work that they couldn't
Right.
do.
Like the biggest slave revolt happened in Haiti.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? When they burned down all the sugarcane crops and everything like
Shout
that.
outs to Haiti. Such a strong nation, such a beautiful people.
You been there? You
My
went?
brother's father's Haitian.
Oh,
Much
okay.
respect and love for the people. Great food, but
Wow.
I digress.
Shout out.
Nah, seriously.
So you mentioned brothers, so you do have siblings.
I do.
How many siblings you have?
My mother has 5 of us, 4 living. The youngest was a twin, and we lost his twin. They were born premature. So I'm the oldest, which also lends to a lot of the stuff that I do.
Right. You the
I mean,
leader.
you seem
I'm
like
the
a
leader.
responsible person.
Absolutely,
Like,
yeah.
You give me oldest child vibes.
That's
I'm not gonna
right.
lie.
I'm proud of that. I'm
For
proud that
real.
my character speaks to what I am. Absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
what's up.
you don't accept nothing less than what the standard you provide.
Not at all.
Okay. So did you start moving around when you was little? You speak about moving. Was that with your mother, or was that when you got older and started moving on your own?
Right. So my mother is one of those people that you hear about. She grew up in New York, and like the older people get in New York, they're like, I need something different, So my mother had her children. We were in Newark, New Jersey, and she was like, I just don't want to raise my children here. So she took us to North Carolina. We were in North Carolina with some of her family for maybe a year and a half. And maybe I think that was a little too slow, and she didn't have enough family support there. So then she took us to Virginia, where her sister, her mother, we had more family. And we were there from me being in, I want to say 6th grade to me graduating college.
So when was it just you and your mother at that time?
And
or
my
she had
siblings.
So she already had your
My
other
siblings,
siblings.
yep.
So she was moving all y'all moved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fearlessly. And that's why, when people are scared to leave their block or their city or their state, I'm like,
Man.
what? Because my mother would pick her children up and go in the middle of the night. Like, I'm tired of this. Next day we were gone,
Wow.
So I have no fear
Right.
because my mother never showed us the fear of the unknown or something new.
And see, that's amazing because a lot of people have a hard time establishing themselves in other places when they decide to uproot like that. You know what I mean? Like, that's the biggest fear. Like, what am I going to do when I get there for employment? Where am I going to stay? How am I going to provide living for my children and myself? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, sustain
But
that.
that's to tap on both of what y'all saying. So I just left from Cancun over the weekend, and we was walking through the even on the resort and everywhere, our culture, they not packing their kids around like, well, my wife made a joke. It was literally a couple. I swear, we think this baby was just born. It looked like a newborn. She's like, they packing a newborn. But in our culture, typically, it's like we not taking our kids nowhere. Probably when they get to teenage age or something, but we leaving them
Walking
somewhere.
for sure.
Yeah. But I was like, babe, you got to think about this though. By the time they're a certain age, their passport booklet is stamped with places that some of our people in our culture would never go. Not even that they can't, just afraid to get up and travel and go somewhere. Just don't even know how to do it. Don't make that move. And I was like, man. So for you to say that, especially to be of our culture and your mother not have that fear, like I commend her and shout out to moms.
Not just that with our children traveling, but you need to acclimate your children as soon as possible.
Right.
And get them familiar with navigating an airport or navigating being around other people or entering other countries. Because if they're a teenage, they're still young enough, but you've let them miss out on all those years. And then who's to say, God forbid, that your child will even live that long. So don't put off for tomorrow what you can do today. Let your child have as many experiences as early as possible, as feasible, unless, money is a problem or you have some security concerns or health issues. But if your child can travel with you, let your child travel.
Yeah, I agree.
Totally agree. I mean, with all that traveling and moving around that you've done, like, what school did you go to? What college? I mean, I know you got to have some letters behind you.
Yeah.
So, what college do you give honors for that?
So I went to Christopher Newport University in Newport News, Virginia. I studied political science, and then I got my master's online for criminal justice international studies at Kaplan University online, because I was moving around by then and I couldn't sit still enough to go to a school in one place. I studied abroad in Ireland for a summer. I compared the justice systems to how they're so punitive. In the U.S., they want to punish you. They want to use you for.
They're switching it up now.
I'm sorry.
Going therapeutic. We're going therapeutic now. We're switching it up. Everything is about how you think.
Yes.
And what would that make you do?
Right.
And how does that make you feel? This whole Roka situation, like, that's a big thing with my employer at this moment.
Mine
like,
too.
For real? Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Roka.
Clearly it's not mental health, but mental health.
Yeah. But I mean, that's one of the things that has taken a back seat in our community for quite some time, bro.
Yeah.
Like, we've sustained a lot of things within the last 300-400 years where a lot of these things are like a part of our genetics.
Right.
You know
Absolutely.
what I'm saying? As far as making us the strong individuals that we are. You may not necessarily know why you're so strong. You necessarily not know why you're so resilient.
Right.
Because it's what we've endured over time.
And what we passed down.
Yeah, very much so.
I call that compounding trauma. And I tell people trauma begets trauma. And sometimes, we do say that we are so strong, we are so resilient. But at the same time, we're holding in a lot of toxicity because we're not releasing it. So we're holding it in. It's not being dealt with. And it's harming us, although we are strong enough to keep ourselves together. That doesn't mean that we're healthy and because we're not dealing with it well. I know. So on one of the platforms that I do therapy on, I get a lot of women of color who will automatically, contact me and they're like, oh my gosh, I saw you and you're a woman of color and you just look so inviting. And I needed to reach out to you. And it dawns on me, like, we've been told in so many ways, verbally and non-verbally, that we don't matter, that our issues don't matter, that nobody cares. And so if we go back to, slavery, who cared about what we were going through? We couldn't go to the plantation owner and say, I'm having a bad day. I'm not feeling valued.
Right.
So we didn't have any therapists for us except for our parents and our families then. And then they couldn't really do anything for us except for take us to the church that the plantation owner allowed and gave us a Bible and told us this is where you get your comfort. And then as we're coming through Jim Crow and stuff out of slavery, what therapists do we have? We have the Jews, we have the whites, and we're sitting on their couches talking to them and they don't really care about us. So we're telling them all of our secrets for them to weaponized and used against us in our own community. So we don't really have anyone to trust to give our secrets to then. So now we're just getting into an era where we feel like we have enough of us in a safe space to confide in and say, I am tired.
Right.
I'm tired and I'm hurting, and I have this inherited generational trauma and these triggers. I don't even know where some of them come from because, again, a lot of trauma is inherited.
Yeah.
It's generational to generational. We're in pain for things that we can't even really put our finger on, but we know we're hurting from something. And I've experienced that personally through my own family, which is another reason that I moved into therapy. I was my mother's therapist all my life and didn't even know it until my mother started telling me, you healed me. And I was like,
wow.
what? But having me as someone to be her mirror and to sit with her and for her to always be able to speak to me and for me to give her truth back in a loving way, I also realized I was doing that with friends and just people that I was coming in contact with. And so when we say that we are resilient, we didn't have a choice. Maybe
True.
we look so resilient because there's so many people around us that didn't have to be, because they had the choices we didn't have. They were able to cry and they were able to be coddled and we weren't. And so maybe other people could tell us that they feel strong if they were ever put in a position where they didn't have the same opportunities.
I mean, that's why I kind of agree with the statement that the Black woman is one of the strongest individuals that walk this planet, because y'all endured more than anyone on this planet, to be honest with you. I mean, shoot, when we couldn't eat on these plantations, we had to feed from our women. You
Right,
know what I
right.
mean? So, I mean, kudos to all my Black women out there.
Shout out for
Sisters, we
sure.
love you. For real, for real.
I mean, you from having to separate from a family,
Yeah.
still raise the kids,
Yeah,
still have the
absolutely.
backbone, still, show hope and, and promise your kids that it's still a future even though you don't know.
But
I
that's
mean,
where we get terms like MF, you know what I'm saying? SOB. All these terms come from that time in life. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy, but it is what it is. And
Yeah.
that's why I think that a lot of the times that we as African American people, we're open in our families. You know what I'm saying? The people that you raise around, you call them your family because we had that system to where, okay, we lose a child was sold off, you know what I'm saying? But another child came into the plantation, so we'll make this my cousin, this my brother. You
Yeah,
know?
anybody of similarities to you, you like,
Yeah.
hey, that's family. Or
Yeah,
like, what's
yeah.
up, brother?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It also goes back to our ancestral roots because we're communal people.
Absolutely.
We are all extended family, and that's another difference between us and all the other cultures. They're not like that. They're not communal. It's every household for themselves. But when we see each other, what we really want to do in our spirits and our essence is we want to enlarge. We want to bring our village back to ourselves because, again, even though it's not our current generation, our DNA knows. It tells us
Right.
village, community,
Right.
gather around.
Well, I mean, shoot, with that being said, I totally agree with you and kind of want to segue with the statement of like the age difference in like relationships. You know what I'm saying? Like with this whole Shannon Sharp thing, like this is something that's been going on for quite some time now. You know what I mean? Age difference is just a major issue in our community. I mean, that's why I'm seeing from this here because what's his name? Woody Allen. Woody Allen is I don't know how many years older than his wife, but no one's saying anything about that.
Didn't he marry his adopted daughter? Isn't that
I think
she's
it was
his adopted?
his granddaughter.
So I think that people are talking about that.
I mean, they
because
are, but it's not as prevalent. Maybe because okay, I look at it like the thing with Shannon Sharp because we had this conversation. I was on the Isaiah Carey show, and he stated that are we being hypocritical because of the abuse situation, right? Him saying, "I'ma choke you."
Did he say I'm gonna choke you as far as like you made me mad and I'm gonna choke you,
No,
or
he
I
say-
want to choke you in the bedroom?
See, we don't necessarily know what
Because
was the
when I
complete
heard
context.
the clip, it sounded like he wanted like that sexual
But he
play.
said, "But you gonna get choked in public, like or something to that nature. I'm gonna choke you in public."
Yeah, he said I choke you. Then he said black man choke white woman
small white
in
woman.
public. Small white woman in public. So, I mean, I took it as more so maybe he was just. I don't think he really meant it in that sense.
So
but,
you really think he meant that in an erotic manner?
Well, no, I think he probably really choke her behind closed doors if that's what they own. But I don't think when he said that as far as really going out in public and choking her, I don't think he wanted that smoke. I just think that,
especially when you got $100 million on the table. You know what I'm saying?
I just think that, I mean, I'm gonna say my take on it. I really just feel like he fumbled the bag. I feel like people and it goes off what you saying with the counseling and all this. Like both of y'all said so much. It's a lot to take in right now, even for the people that's gonna watch this in the future.
Yes.
Like we could, man, like, but.
We just gonna have to bring her back for episode 2.
And I'll be there.
But for my intake on from you talking about our community, our ancestors, and then you talking about that's what's messed up with our people. You know, at the end of the day, we fumbled the bag. We know, like at the end of the day, we know our history. We know where we come from. Like my mom used to always tell me, you're gonna have to work 10 times harder and be 10 times smarter than the rest of the world. It's not made for you to lack and slip. You can't make mistakes that everybody else make. Don't be a follower, be a leader. Right. So when I see stuff like that, it's simple. You fumbled the bag. You know, at the end of the day, the devil is working at all times.
But with somebody that's younger than your daughter, bro, that's what's crazy work to me.
Because so some people are saying, okay, well, it's Hollywood. Maybe they set him up. Okay, let's say it's a setup. You fumbled the bag.
Shannon Sharp.
All these different blogs. I've seen some blogs where they saying, okay, as far as Shannon Sharp go, maybe it could be like somebody set that situation up, like sent her to him or like, put her on him. I don't know.
Nah, she was an OnlyFans model.
So my thing with that is I don't feel bad for either one of them.
Me neither.
And the thing is, for me, Shannon is not the first to experience this. So you put yourself in this position. Mm-hmm. You know the risks that you take and playing in this situation. Mm-hmm. Right. So you did that knowingly. You saw what your brothers have gone through before this. Right. So why put yourself in that position? For the young woman, you're trying to make his money your money. And so it's transactional. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? If you want some of his money, you know that he's paying for an experience.
He wants some honey.
He wants what he wants. And so if you're not willing to provide the experience that his money calls for, you need to exit and find someone who's willing to give you their money for the experience you're willing to provide them. Yeah, if you're having a conversation with him and he says, part of what I like is choking, and you still want some of his money, prepare to get choked. Because he's telling you, you want his money, right? Play the game. Yeah. And so she's of the age, she's of consenting age, right?
Correct.
And so this is what we do when we put ourselves in this situation. If you don't want to be in this situation, don't step to a guy strictly for his money without any desire for something else. She wasn't trying to pursue anything else. Shannon has made it clear, I believe, that he doesn't want marriage, right? He has said that he doesn't want to be married.
He offset a lot. I've also heard him say he offset a lot of normal person practices when it comes to that for his career. Like he offset having a family and things like that to make sure that he was completely successful. And that resonates with me because I still have yet to have children.
Right.
Because I'm trying to build a foundation so I can pass on a legacy to my children. Right.
But so Shannon is well established at this point.
Yeah.
He's 56. He's well established.
Right.
But the only point I was saying was for the young woman. You know what I'm saying? She also knows these beautiful young girls. She's 19, but this is a goal for a lot of these young girls. She's not, someone with her head down in her book saying, I'm focused on my career right now. She got with Shannon Sharp. So really, what does she think?
So she's the predator.
Right.
I think they're both predatory.
Okay.
She's filing a lawsuit.
That's why I say she's a predator.
Did he actually put his hands on her? Were the
I
police
don't think
called? Did
so.
he
I
actually?
don't think so.
She's
As far as we
filing a
know,
lawsuit because
as
of
far as we
what?
know, it's civil. There's no police reports
Right,
involved.
right.
As far as what we know as the public.
So if he did not put his hands on her, and she's filing a multi-million-dollar lawsuit for what? She's predatory. She's predatory,
Yeah.
and he's predatory.
And he offered her 10 million and she turned it down.
And I mean, offered 10 mil for what? Just to appease her, to make her go away, to say, okay, this has run its course. I'm on to the next. You're on to the next. Take this 10 mil and go. And the 10 mil wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And he didn't lay hands on you?
Yeah, Belichick, his wife is like 60-something years younger than him. What, Ron Isley, his wife is like, he was, what, 60, like 65, and she was 29 when he met.
Man,
So, I
that's
mean, would it
crazy.
be different if she was already in her 20s? I'm thinking that the main issue was that she was in her teens.
Why is that the issue, though?
I don't know, because I just feel some
He said,
type
I
of way.
don't know.
I'm just saying.
Don't feel
like,
a type of way, Quincy.
Nah,
Don't.
Well, I'll
because,
tell you
okay.
why I feel a type of way, because I just had celebrated one of my daughter's 17th birthday yesterday, and I'm like, let me find out something.
You feel me?
I'm riding. Like, it's over with.
But what are you riding for?
Okay.
I don't know, just mad,
But you
upset.
exactly. But you.
I mean, honestly,
but you're a dad.
fortunately for me, I'm a dad, and I raised my
Right.
daughters to the point, because I have a 20-year-old that's going to be 21 in
Right.
June too. So, I honestly, a lot of these things, I go home and tell my wife and kids all the time. A lot of these things I talk about.
Right.
Also, with me being a police officer, a lot of things I deal with, I don't have to deal with at
Right.
home.
Right.
I have a beautiful wife, beautiful kids. Like, we good. Like, as
Right.
far as up to this point, everybody plays their role. But I be speaking from, just, I think I would be pretty upset if I found out my 17-year-old was talking to a 50-year-old.
But be upset with her first.
No.
You
Of
know
course,
what I'm
I'd be
saying?
upset with
Right.
her,
Yeah,
but I would
yeah.
also be upset with the person. I would be
Right.
upset with everybody. I'd be upset
Right.
with me. I would be upset with everybody. I'm
Right.
just being honest. But it's a tough pill. The reality is a tough pill
Right.
to swallow.
It is.
So to answer your question, the reality of it, like,
Right.
what did I feel?
Right.
What
I
did my
mean,
wife feel?
Hugh Hefner did it for how long? Till he died. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Had a whole house full of girls.
Willingly, though, were they abducted?
They willingly went.
They were willing.
And see, okay, I'm glad you said
Yeah.
that, because there was an issue that recently popped up, and we're not gonna say any names or anything like that to protect the innocent. But there was an individual around my age, 38 years old, that was having a relationship with the 17-year-old.
Okay.
How do you feel about that? As a 38-year-old male
Mm-hmm.
talking to a 17-year-old female.
I will see y'all on the next episode. I promise you that. So I come from a very different mindset, and
Okay.
I don't even think we have enough time to go into it. But that's situational, right? Again, if we're going back to roots, what was the intention? My thing is intention, because back in our culture, our girls were married off. We had arranged marriages, and our girls were married off at early ages because marriage is functional. And if a young girl was given to an older man for marriage, he didn't cause her harm. He brought her into a home, and she became a wife and a mother, right? So in our society, that's looked at
No, this
criminally.
this was just for fornication under cardinal knowledge.
Right. But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So with intent and things. But if we're talking about fornication, then absolutely it's a crime. Not just because of her age, but she doesn't have the mental capacity
Right.
to know what's going on. Did you lure her in? Did you lie to her? How did you get access to her? That's criminal.
Yeah.
Completely. Now that you're saying that part, because I didn't hear about that story. But yeah, it's criminal. You have some 17-year-olds that get with older men, and they actually get married. They actually have full, true relationships,
Yeah.
and no harm is technically done to the young woman.
Yeah.
The family's upset because they
Absolutely.
didn't consent.
Absolutely.
But if we're talking about what you're speaking about, and it was just for fornication and to sexually exploit her, that's absolutely
Yeah.
abhorrent.
Yeah. But I mean, it's crazy because on the flip side, when a young man talks to an older woman,
She's a predator
but it's almost like a badge of honor.
for the young man.
Yeah.
But he doesn't know any better either. He doesn't know any better either.
Dang, you made me. Well, I didn't know no better, but they was,
And I'll tell
they
you,
was
I'll tell you
always older
this.
than me.
But
Yeah,
I'll tell
me
you
too.
this. Because and this we'll segue into one of the books, but for a young boy, when you have sex, you're going to ejaculate. You have that sensation. Young girls don't know their bodies. We're just being banged in. When we're minors like that, we're not
Yeah.
orgasming. So
That's
this is
crazy.
strictly
That's true, though.
emotional. This is strictly, I like this guy. I want to please this guy. I want to keep this guy close to me.
Yeah.
This is what I think I should be doing. Unfortunately, women use their bodies. Our bodies are like a form of gratitude for service done to us. And I speak to so many women about that, especially when we've not been protected. We don't have fathers, big brothers in our lives. When a guy comes in and he does something kind to, even if it's the most basic thing, one of our first instincts is offer yourself to him as a form of gratitude. It's horrible. It's painful. It's sad. It's something that we do automatically and we regret it later, and we don't even realize where that's coming from. But we're told that that's such a valuable thing. You offer it to him. And so for young girls who are having those experiences with older guys that are sweet talking them, that they're, infatuated with because it looks like this guy has this going on and he might really care, you're giving him your body and you're not feeling the same physical pleasure because you don't even know your
That's
body yet.
crazy.
I was in my 30s.
She opened in my 30s.
I was in my
I wasn't
30s
even ready for all this.
before I had my first orgasm. My 30s. And I had been having sex, so.
But nah, that's because
Man,
my first.
We both.
My first was older than me. She was. I think she had already graduated, and she wanted to take my virginity. So, because I told her, like, yeah, I'm a virgin. She's like, most guys lie about it. I don't want to lie about it. I never did it. She's like, all right. So she came to my house. But to go off what you saying, boom, I did my thing. I was lit. I ran all the way. I ran all the way to his house, like 8 streets. I'm running. But when the reverse turned, when I took another lady's virginity, she was like, "That's it." Yeah. I'm like, "Yeah." She was like, I just felt like it was gonna be so much more. I'm like, I don't know what you felt,
right?
But that's pretty much it. And then,
I think at that time you wasn't off into the whole foreplay. You didn't know that the woman was a volume knob and not a light switch.
But we all was young though. This whole group of people
Men
I'm talking about,
switches. Women are like volume knobs. You gotta turn them up ever so slightly. You know what I mean?
So
it ain't no ping.
The music wasn't even playing. It wasn't no music.
Oh Lord!
It was on mute.
Hey,
that's not who you're married to today, is it? I bet it's not.
No, that's definitely not who I'm married to. But ain't no way she'd have stayed around. I had on mute.
It's crazy because, but you have individuals that are just attracted to younger people, and they actually have a term for that called MAPS, which is minor attracted persons. And they were trying to make that a legal term and kind of insert it into the initial community. You know what I mean? To make it an inclusive thing. How you feel about that? I mean, I totally disagree with that.
I feel as though we are living in present day Sodom and Gomorrah. I feel like this is Babylon with, their practices.
Yeah.
I feel like we are in the day. Not to make it a spiritual thing, but when the flood happened, they said, as in the days of Noah,
right,
where there was just so much debauchery going on.
Well, we have floods down here all the time in Houston.
The world is not going to be destroyed by a flood again.
Oh, okay, all right.
But it's up to the people who put these people in the legislature and allow them to make these legislations. We're not revolting. We're not electing people that are going to protect our children and us from these things. They're trying to say that it's a mental health disorder. They're trying to say people can't help it. People do what you allow them to do. And if you penalize the people who do this, if you put them in mental institutions, if they get the death penalty, people will straighten up and fly right, But when they know that if they know that oh, this is acceptable now, and this is becoming acceptable. This is on its way. There's such a secret, sacred place for mental illness now that everybody can just be swept under that rug. The
Mhm.
right people
Right,
can be
right.
swept up under that and protected. And then, so at the price of children?
And I mean, I thought they say children are the future. I mean, with that being said, it's like, are we helping them or are we hindering them in a certain
We're
sense?
hurting them. We're definitely hurting them.
Yeah, I
You know,
think
and we're raising our children to believe that they deserve it and that this
Right.
is natural. And if it happens, just like in the home, when they say, you know, a lot of children that get molested or sexually assaulted, it's by people that they know. And now you have to look at this person who may be coming to do you harm as,
Mhm,
oh, this
mhm,
person can't help it because it's MAPS. And,
mhm,
you
mhm.
know, I'm not really a victim. They're a victim too.
yeah,
But I
like
ain't gonna lie, I'm kind of scared to have kids though. Like, especially with all this going on with technology being able to teach your child more than you, with these
well,
phones and iPads and
I don't think you have a problem with that. Like I say, like even in my house, like
yeah, I know I'm gonna be a present father, but
you
still,
gonna be all right,
when
bro.
they go to
It's
school, it's like
now that you can't
that's
control,
what I'm saying. Like I can't shield them from.
but it
You can
starts in the
homeschool.
home.
You can
Nah, I ain't
homeschool.
homeschooling.
I'm a big
Y'all gotta
proponent
go.
of homeschooling.
You
Okay,
are for real?
I'm a big proponent of
I I
homeschooling.
I agree with homeschooling, but somebody has to take care of the finances in order to be able to facilitate a school type of situation like that.
Mm.
So if I'm not working, wifey gonna have to stay at the house and teach these children. I mean,
Because you guys
excuse me, children.
understand, you
Excuse
guys
my
Well, is it
understand
son.
the
homeschooling
assignment.
where you teaching or homeschooling where you have a teacher come into your home
Either
teaching your
way,
children?
there are homeschooling co-ops where you allow someone that you have looked at their credentials, you look
Mhm.
at their syllabus, and you can allow your children to go to them and be homeschooled. You could do it in
Okay.
your home yourself.
Okay.
There are a lot of options for homeschooling. A lot of my friends homeschool
Really?
and do homeschool co-ops.
See,
Yeah.
on my perception of homeschooling is me staying at home
Yeah.
with my kid,
Mhm.
teaching my kid math, science,
Yeah.
reading. You know what I mean?
It's
The
bigger than
basics.
that. It doesn't have to be that.
It doesn't.
You
It
don't
doesn't
think
have to
you
be
don't
that.
think it like does something with your social, like make you socially awkward or
Yeah, that's
something?
almost
Just
like pandemic lifestyle.
yeah.
So
Like I like the fact that my kids. This is what I like about my kids. I get to watch them
mhm.
go out and make their own decisions, and then we get to talk about it, good or bad. Like next time, try this. Like or next time, do this. Like I thought that I was a harsh dad at one point. I don't really whoop them, but I talk them to death.
Mm.
And I do have a thing around my house, like they're like, please just whoop me because I don't want to talk. But one year, one of my daughters wrote in the card, like, as much as you talk and talk, I appreciate it. And it really sat with me because I was like, I thought in my mind, I asked my wife, am I doing it? She was like, you got to do what you got to
Yeah.
do. But I do appreciate watching them become young adults and watching them make their own decisions because at some point you gotta go out in the world. You gotta go out. So I'm asking, like, you don't think homeschool kind of like hurts you when it comes to you having to go out and be productive in society?
No, because there are other ways, there are other programs that your children can still be involved in the community. They can do community projects, they can be part of organizations, they can still do rec center. There are tons of things kids can do after school. I think for the society that we are in and that we're moving into, just like I think it was Malcolm X or whoever said it, why would you let your enemy educate your child, especially when they're taking DEI out of the schools?
Yeah.
They've whitewashed it. They're not educating our children for discernment and knowledge. They're teaching our children how to be employees. I was reading a book on finance, and they were saying how once they took money, the federal took money off the gold backing, and the colleges stopped being privatized and they became public, they no longer had the same curriculum. They were no longer teaching people the same way. They strictly teach you for industries. And then you go into that industry and you work to make that 1%, 2%, 3% that own all the wealth in the world. You just go and funnel them their profit. You know, they're not really educating you on how to be an entrepreneur yourself. You might learn some things along the way, but their main function is to teach our children for the SATs and the SOL so that they can continue getting their marks and getting their federal funding. They're not really doing our children any good. And now if you take the DEI out, and I know in Florida where I was at with DeSantis, you know, taking all of the minority leaders off of the school boards and things, you have these people who are in the school system who don't care about your kids. They are for the Republican agenda, which is against our kids, because that's why they've replaced them, because they didn't want our children's advocates in those positions. So who knows? They already have our children, male and female, in the prison pipeline. They already penalize our girls more than their white counterparts or their Asian counterparts for the same activities, so that they can get marks on their records, so that they're not qualified for scholarships, so that they're in, the alternative schools. They just make their records abysmal just for being teens and going through the same emotional triggers in school that, you know, and for what? So sometimes it's more harmful to have our children in. And then when you want to tell the children, Christopher Columbus discovered this, and you're just giving them that agenda, why does Black history start with slavery in America? We didn't exist anywhere else before that? No, you cannot do that.
Actually, a few years back, they actually tried to take it out of books, out of history books in schools.
Slavery.
And they called it industrial immigration.
I know. And so yet again, why do I want my child in that? They're not getting a real education. And when you lie to them about history, now when you go out in society, you don't really know how to function, because you're not functioning off of truth.
His story.
It's his story, but I need to know the real story.
Yeah.
I don't need his story or her story. I need the real story.
Yeah.
You know?
But that's why that information was supposed to have been passed down through generations.
And that's what happens with homeschooling. I can pass this information down to my child. Now, granted, you can let your child go to public school if you need them to get that education. But then how many parents are going behind at the end of the day, going through everything their child learned and saying, that's not fact. Here's the fact. Read this book along with it. Because when you educate, all you're doing is handing your child a book, telling you, read this book. Yeah. If I'm looking at the book that this school gave my child, and that book is full of crap, I know there's another book I can hand my child and say, read this book.
And
you know
that
what I'm saying?
is what we do. That, like, and my wife she be on it. She be like, that ain't, and then we'll sit there and go through all this other stuff. So I will say, to piggyback, if you can't afford or don't have the resources or the knowledge to do the homeschool, just fact check your children when they walk through the door, because that's something I do every day. Like, it's a few things I do. I'll say, hey, how was your day? But me knowing how no. How was your day? Like,
talk to me.
Tell me one or two things that interesting at least. And then once I get them to say a little, now I got a whole, and then sometimes I be like, oh God, I ain't want to know this much. But then another thing I started, because me being a police officer and I deal with so much mental health, because mental health is a real thing, but I do feel like some of it is over the top. Sometimes it's not mental health, but either way, I just walk around my house and be like, hey, what's your mental health at? Is it on 0?
Yes.
Out of 0 to 100, what you at? Yeah. So they like, well, I mean, I'm on 80. All right, cool. But every now and then somebody be like 660. Like, what got your mental health on 60? What happened
to you today?
And then they like, I don't know. And then I'm like, well, no, we got to talk about, I don't really want to talk about, no, your mental health is on 60. Like, your battery is almost dead. Like, we got to figure this out. But I do that. Then after that, I love you. Everybody in the house, I love you. So it's like building this. And I realize, like, in so many families, especially in our culture, people don't even simply say, I love you. Like, why would I want to open up to you if you're not even showing me love, care, compassion? It's like, so I walk around now, I love you. What is your mental health on? How was your day? This is a daily, like when I leave here and go back home, hey, how was your day today? What's your mental health on? But now, every now and then, it do backfire. Like I say, you ask somebody what their mental health on and you look them in their eyes, and then
they twitching and you're like, oh my God.
One of my daughters, I was like, what's your mental health on? She started crying. I was like,
Lord, I wasn't ready for this.
She was like, "Oh my God!" I was like, "Oh, what?" But I mean, but I had to get through it with her. Like that's something, and it was a simple problem. There was my oldest daughter. She was, I guess, she had a heart. Like she was trying to. It was something dealing with college, and then me and my wife got together, and I mean, we figured it out. But I was like, "You could have just said something." She was like, "Well, I didn't want to bother you. You know, I'm trying to do my own thing." I'm like, but something just that simple. But that's something that I do because I ain't finna homeschool. I ain't gonna like it sound good.
We're in the information age though, bro. Like I think a lot of things are different in this generation in comparison to previous generations, which kind of makes me want to bring up the title of your book, Things I Wish I Knew.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like I think a lot of older generations could get a few gems out of that book.
Nah, for real, for real.
You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, I know I can. Because it's a lot of things that I say all the time. Man, I wish I knew this. Or man, if I could go back and tell myself
things
this,
I wish I knew
at this age, man, I'd have been this much sharper. I'd have been this much. You know what I mean? I'd be a lot further in life than what I am now.
Yeah.
Right.
So please look up this book, ladies and gentlemen. Please look up this book. Share it with a friend. Read it, go over it, start a book club about it. You know what I mean? This is what we need.
What's your favorite chapter in the book?
Oh boy, I think high school is my favorite chapter. I love all the chapters though.
High school was the bomb.
Yes, especially for like nerds like me. But I love all the chapters. I really want to get into the schools. If I have any teachers, principals, school board members listening, I really wanted to get into the schools and to speak about the book. So I was always academic, right? My grandfather, my parents were not together. I had my mother's side, I had my father's side. My grandfather was very, very into academics. Like the TV didn't go on anything but PBS. We weren't able to talk on the phone. We couldn't have company. They went to Catholic school. My grandfather ran a very strict house. And I had to read. I was reading the Odyssey, the Iliad. He played no games. There was no Dr. Seuss. He was serious. He believed in training a child early, that the young children, their brains are developing.
When did you read the Odyssey? Because I ain't read that till like 9th, 10th grade.
Yeah. My grandfather was something else. That's a whole nother podcast too, for real. So they were very, very big on academics, right? They groomed us for higher education.
Yeah.
And so I was just naturally inclined to learn. So when I got to middle school, instead of like playing with the girls, I was in Chrome Club. I was president of the SCLA. I was in everything. And so I already had a lot of things on my resume. And then I became involved in community service with the American Red Cross. I was taking pre-college courses by my freshman year in high school. I joined every organization I could find in high school. So I built myself up. I was known in the community. I was known everywhere. Teachers, people would write letters of recommendation for me for anything. And so by the time I went into college, where my peers were stuck scrambling because they didn't have anything to make themselves look good on paper, I didn't have that issue. And so there were just so many things I was seeing that I was able to do for myself just because of how my family raised me versus my peers who didn't have that type of reinforcement in the home. But then I got to college, and this is what I didn't know, because I was the first to go to college.
Oh, so even though they had you doing all this stuff, this was just home activities.
This was home activity because they knew what they wanted that they didn't do for themselves.
Right.
So, but they couldn't teach me about college because they hadn't been to college. And then I lost my grandfather. I lost a lot of my support before I hit college. They passed. And so I was in the blind. My mother hadn't gone to college. My dad was gone. My grandmother, my grandfather, they were gone. And so no one had money for school. And so what did I do? Student loans. Because I didn't have, no one was telling the little black girl, this is available to you. This is available to you. You know, everybody else, they were pulling their people to the side, giving them game. I was in the blind. And so I was student loaning it up because all I knew was I got to go to college. But who said that? Who said I had to go to college?
Exactly.
Who said that was the only way? I took the ASVAB, you know, but nobody was talking to me about my options for the military. I just knew I didn't want to wake up at 3:00 in the morning. I didn't want to be told I couldn't wear my nails. I didn't, so
Right.
I didn't have anyone talking common sense into me. I didn't know maybe vocational school or trade school will get you what you really want. Or maybe you can just go intern somewhere, because do you really need a degree to do what you want to do?
Right.
Because a lot of these places you can have the paper all
So you
want.
felt like your only option was college.
Was college and then student loans, because I didn't have the money, but there's so many other options out there that people are not being told about.
Right.
And then, okay, so what if college is the option for you? Are you maximizing college? You have to maximize your opportunities from middle school forward. And I think a lot of times we get in middle school and, you're just like, oh, my kid is in 6th grade. What does that mean? It means everything. They're laying the groundwork for their life. We know as adults, time flies. And so year after year, there are opportunities that you're missing, that your child can be building themselves up the ladder just to springboard off that last year and to set themselves up for early retirement or, just working smarter and not harder. And so a lot of things I wish I knew that I would go back and redo. College is full of opportunity. And we get in that first year just like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? What am I going to study?
Turn up.
Turn up, you know what I'm saying? Especially if you're on a wet campus. And so you miss a mound of opportunities that first year. And by the time you get to that junior year, that senior year, when you want to get serious, you realize that a lot of your opportunities are gone, or these people that you want to connect with, and they're like, okay, well, where were you freshman year?
Right.
Hungover, on academic probation. And so you can definitely still enjoy college, but don't miss out on what it's really there for.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of people make who they are in those years because of the connections that they make and the things that they do.
That's why I was told the statement, your network determines your net worth.
Your net worth. And then there are a lot of things that you age yourself out of. Like, there are opportunities that are available to you as a student. And then once you want to get into those programs, once you've graduated, they're like, are you in undergrad? Like, what program are you in? And you're like, I graduated. They're like, okay, well, this is for students, It's not available anymore.
No, seriously. And that kind of makes me want to ask you the question, like, okay, I'm going go back a little bit. Like, when did you kind of get into boys? Like, did you get heavy off into them in college, or was you leaning towards it in high school? Cause like me and this dude here, we was off in the girls in middle school. You know what I mean? By the time I hit high school, it was like that was my primary focus. You know what I mean? Like, these books is cool, but shout over there cute. I need to go holler at her. Hey, I mean, you want some of these chips?
Nah, straight up.
For real.
I think my first really big relationship, still to this day, love of my life, it will just never end for me, was in high school, my high school sweetheart. And I met him in the programs called Upward Bound at Norfolk State, where I was getting college credits while I was in high school. So he was smart too. But
was he older than you?
He was a different smart. No, we were the same age. Okay. He was a different smart. He was highly intelligent, but they took him for granted because he was like from the hood. So, and he was like really funny. So he was Scorpio. So they didn't. No people. But so they, didn't realize how intelligent he was. But this man to this day is highly intelligent. Like, he creates apps, like, just a phenomenal man. But so I had the guys, but guys liked me because I was smart. They liked the nerdy girl. And because I knew that I liked to learn and people liked me because I was smart, I still gravitated to my studies. So I wasn't like into multiple guys at the same time. So I would have a boyfriend, but I would have my head down, and they supported me so hard in my academics that I never felt like I had to choose between my academics and my boyfriends because they supported my academics. And so I was like, great, I'll see you after I study.
You was like, hey, you going to the NFL. She's smart. Let her be.
Yeah.
She the one.
Would you take that, you know what I'm saying, a bit of that from your grandparents? Like, you got those values established at a young age?
From my father's side of the family, absolutely. Okay. And then my mother's side, I do have an aunt who, All of us are scared of her to this day. We're grown, but that aunt, if she found out we were off the rails, she was coming to put us back on the track, and we didn't want that. So we're like, no, I'll just stay on track.
Yeah.
Nah, it's always that one
I
individual.
was just finna say, and
'Cause I know
definitely needed.
when I caught that case, like Uncle CB was the wild card out of the trio. You know what I'm saying? And bro, he chastised me something tough.
And they don't even have to hit you, right? It's just them
Man,
showing up. You like,
nah.
you called who?
Yeah, nah, for
Feel
real,
me?
for real.
Like, bro had me crying in Greens Point parking lot, bro. Like, no cap. Like,
Nah, for
he was
real.
like, bro, nah, you already know how to move. You know what I'm saying? Like, you acting on some other stuff.
Right.
And I was like, man, it was just one little fumble, but yeah, that one little fumble can cost you the rest of the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
And everybody don't get a second opportunity.
exactly, exactly. So, appreciate you, baby. I love you. Real talk.
Auntie.
You already know Double OG, Uncle Easky for
You know what
me.
I'm talking about?
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? He
For
gonna
real,
get
for
me
real.
right. No kid wanted to talk to him, see him. And it wasn't even about the physical. He would drive to you just to sit there and tell you, you tripping.
And then drive you around. He gonna say it's real dandy, cat.
Yeah.
Hop in. We gonna bang a little bit. He gonna take you get something to eat. And you think it's good. Then he gonna bring up the situation like, you gonna feel like this smile.
Is this trauma? Are we?
For real. I'm just, you know what I'm saying? This is what we
Say,
experienced
man.
as young cats.
Because I know I was a cut up. We found some
real.
opportunities to
For
do
real,
something.
for
That's
real.
why
It's over for y'all because my mother still calls this aunt. Like, she will still be like, I have Aunt Joe on the line. I'm like, but why?
I don't know. For me, I think it kind of stopped once I got married and had kids. They gave me to my wife. They say that my mama even said that you got them now. Like, so it's like I don't really. They'll kind of check in with me or whatever, but ain't nobody really. You know, I got my partners or something. They'll call me every now and like, you tripping for that?
I'm sure gonna let him know. If I don't do nothing, I'm gonna let him know, bro. You on some King Drew million stuff, bro.
And the accountability.
Yeah.
You know, and like the things I wish I knew back then too was the accountability that you hold your people around you, because your elders gonna get on you, but it's the friends the company you keep.
Yeah.
That's monumental there. You know what I mean? And I think the people that we were hanging around kind of made girls more important than what they should have been at that age. You know what I'm saying? Because like at a young age, you start to build preference as to what you like and what you want in a person when you should be mainly focusing on your studies like you were doing.
But that's also when you say the peer pressure. Sometimes you're not even going after what you want. You're going after what's popular because your boys or your girls can influence you and be like, that's what you like. I was told often that I liked ugly dudes. And I was like all the time, like my siblings would be like, nope. They would see like a pretty guy. They'd be like, she's not going to want that. She's not going to want that. She likes him rough. And I'd be like, I like a masculine. Like I don't like, you know, but to your point, it's like doing that so early. So one of the things I talk about in my other book, Legs Closed.
Another one.
One of the things I talk about in Legs Closed is the fact that when we start distracting ourselves with the opposite sex and especially becoming physically involved in it, it shifts the way we think.
It really
right?
does.
Especially for young girls. I'm not a guy, so I don't speak from a guy's perspective, but I'm glad I have guys here because I'm sure it's similar, right?
Well, at that point, it's like,
All
mama, you don't matter no more.
Yes.
She matter because she giving me something that you can't.
Right.
Straight like that.
Right. And so it's like everything becomes secondary. Those hormones are activated. Those feelings are activated. You're skipping classes sometimes to see them in the hallway. You're skipping school sometimes just to see them, out of school. And so I really, for so many reasons, encourage our young girls and the families to support the young girls and focusing on their academics and their goals and understanding that there's going to be a time. There's going to be a time. And not to say you can't have a guy in your life, but it doesn't have to go to that point because of the distraction that is sad. And also pacing yourself, because your virginity and your virtue are so important. And when you do meet that right person later on down the line, you want to be able to present that invaluable gift to them. Because once you give it up, it's gone.
Yeah.
You know, and so many women nowadays wish that they could take that back and give it to the right person.
Do you think a father figure plays an important role in that, or what?
It plays a significant role. That's not to say that there are women out there who were raised without their fathers who didn't handle themselves appropriately. But I absolutely know I would not have lost my virginity when I lost it if my father was still breathing. I know I wouldn't have been involved with almost any of the guys I had been involved with if my dad were still breathing. And unfortunately, because I'm the oldest, I didn't have a big brother. I didn't have big male cousins. I didn't have uncles. My grandmother had 5 girls. I had I had a female dominant family. I didn't have men in my family. I didn't have anyone to step in. And the male cousins I did have were on my father's side in New York, you know, and I was in Virginia. Now, had they been there, I might have had some interference run for me, but I was left to my own devices. And again, I'm the oldest, so my mother had younger kids she was watching. And because I was so heavy in my academics, she trusted me to go off and do whatever I was going to do because she knew I was going to handle business. So when I was making those off decisions, I didn't have anyone checking me. My mother was raising younger kids who needed her, according to a single mother, more than I did. So,
yeah. See, that goes back to the statement that I said earlier. Like, you build preference. Like, even like when you're dating as an adult, you have built a preference as to what you like, you know what I'm saying, from all the individuals that you've dealt with. If you were to save yourself for marriage or save yourself for a later date, those preferences haven't been built or established in you. So you don't have any expectations as to how intercourse is supposed to go.
So the
you and
physical
that person,
expectation.
right? You and that person are learning each other as you all go, rather than, oh, this person didn't do this, you ain't do this. Oh, nah, I can't do this with you. You know what I'm saying? We don't match, but I mean, you ain't even giving me a chance. Like, we still learning each other. This is a learning process.
And that's the imbalance that you have, because while sex is important, it's not to be downplayed in like marriage and real relationships. It should not trump the characteristics that you really need to have in a partner for the long term. And so when you have sex first and that becomes your guiding factor, it can overshadow the other, you know, because then you see those red flags and you're like, I don't care about that because he taking me down and it's marvelous. You know what I'm saying? So you like those red flags are just like, they're green lights at this point.
Right? Mo, when I was going through my situation, when my old man said, son, your best sex partner is not gonna be your best marriage partner.
Oof, that is so sad.
Like, that blew my mind, bro. I'm like, what?
Nah, for real.
You tripping? He was like, son. He said, I said, I'm only here to tell you that the woman that's gonna have your back, the woman that's gonna love you through thick and thin, it ain't because of what you think you doing down there. Like I remember this day. I'm standing in the driveway of his house. I'm like, this man is crazy.
Nah, but
only for you to say that, like people put that as the end all be all, and it's a time to play and it's a time to be serious. Honestly, I don't want my best sex partner to be my business partner. Like we not gonna figure this out. Like, how we gonna pay bills and raise kids and all this if we get so caught up into that and can't turn it off? Like
a whole hour of our day or 30 minutes or however long it is. You know what I mean? I think we done talked an hour of y'all time. And Miss Jackson, I really hate to cut this conversation out because I'm enjoying it to the utmost. Because this is not the first time me and this lady has had a conversation that has ran for like 2-3 hours, bro. Like, seriously, like, me and this lady chopped it up for a long time on our first meeting. You know what I'm saying? So I really enjoy exchanging dialect with this young lady.
I'm having a good time.
Nah, for real. So we gonna definitely have to pick it up at a later date. So please come back. I know you got a host of books
on Amazon. What can they find you on Amazon?
They can find me. They can type in Amani Jackson Books. They can type in any of my titles: Legs Closed, Things I Wish I Knew, and then at the bottom it'll say about the author. You can click it and see all my books.
You know what I'm talking about?
So you got another movie role?
Yeah, man,
come on,
my boy been cleaning up, man.
I write for TV. I'm doing some short films.
Okay, all right. Man, I love it.
You're going to see me again. It's really going down in the South. and we're gonna end it like that.
Hold on. What's one thing that you could like? What just a piece of information for the listeners out of everything we done talked about, or something that you just feel, some positive energy, positives.
Absolutely. I'm going to try to keep it short. If you are not yet working or existing in your passion, it is never too late. I wanted to write for TV for years. I've been writing for books. I'm 40. I always started feeling down on myself, like I'm getting into things too late. All these people have been in film since they were 20, since they were 30. I'm so late in the game. And I said to myself, stop beating yourself up. If you work in film for one day, you live in your purpose, that's enough. You didn't go to your grave without walking in your purpose. Follow your dreams, pursue your passions, and do it. Don't beat yourself up. It's never too late. You got it.
Yeah, I heard what she said, and it's a very true statement. It's a lot of inventions. It's a lot of dreams. It's a lot of aspirations in that graveyard
richest
that
place.
never
The richest
never
place.
made it to the world for us to see. So with that being said, thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for tuning in. It's your boy, Mr. Quick.
And I'm King Drew Millions.